Good morning. I'm Chief Thomas Manger of the Montgomery County Police Department. And on Monday, school starts in Montgomery County. School starts in many jurisdictions around the D.C. region. And what everybody who drives a car knows, this means a significant change in traffic volume, traffic patterns, traffic delays. That will start again on Monday. The ease up of traffic that occurs during the summer is about to come to a quick halt. So drivers need to anticipate that they're going to need more time to get to their destinations, and we're encouraging people to plan ahead, to start early, and allow for extra time to get to your destination. The last thing that we need are drivers that are making mistakes because they're rushing. And this includes drivers taking their kids to school and as well as paying more attention to the kids that are walking to school and riding to school. We've got to be alert, slow down, reduce any distractions that drivers might have inside their car. Obviously, no cell phones, no texting. All this does is makes it more likely that you may make a mistake with the added volume of people walking on the sidewalks and crossing streets. On Monday, there's kids that are starting their first day of school ever. You got kids that are returning, as seniors in high school and everything in between. And what we know is that kids will be excited, they'll be anxious, they will be socializing with one another as they go to school. And so it's more important for everyone to look out for these kids to make sure that they're safe. And there's no one that looks out for them more than the 160 plus crossing guards that the Montgomery County Police Department deploys throughout this county. Their sole mission, the sole mission of these crossing guards, is to make sure that our kids get to school safely. I can't say enough good things about the men and women that put that uniform on every day, twice a day, to make sure our kids get to school safely and can get home safely. We thank them for their service. But I will tell you that every year I talk to these crossing guards and I hear horror stories about impatient drivers, about drivers that are not paying attention to what they're doing. We've had crossing guards that have been struck by vehicles because drivers aren't paying attention. And each year I hear about the close calls that the crossing guards are witness to because drivers are either not paying attention to the crossing guard, not heeding their signals, or just not paying attention to the kids who are walking in the street. Many of our children take the school bus to school as well. And about 18 months ago, we started a pilot program where we put cameras on the school bus to catch violators who pass loading and unloading school buses. I can't think of a more dangerous violation than passing a loading or unloading school bus. And in fact, we didn't know what to expect. Some other jurisdictions in the region had put a few cameras out on school buses and didn't really have much of an impact in terms of seeing violations. In the first 18 months that we had these cameras out, we had nearly 2,000 violations that we cited. And we continue to get violations every day on the 25 cameras that we have deployed throughout the county. We have 100 different school buses that are equipped for the cameras. We have 25 cameras, so we rotate those cameras among those buses, and we are seeing violations. We certainly saw violations every year during the school year last year. And my hope is that we can just emphasize to drivers that they cannot pass a loading or unloading school bus, that the law does not allow you to pass those buses when the red lights are blinking. I know a lot of folks are unsure if you're on a divided highway, a highway that's divided by a median strip or by a concrete strip. If you're on the other side of that median, you can continue. You don't have to stop for the light. But if there's no median, if there's nothing raised, if there's no grass strip in between the lanes going in either direction, you have to stop. Even if it's a 4-lane highway, you have to stop. If it's only paint along the roadway, you must stop. So we're emphasizing that to drivers to make sure that we don't have the number of violations this year that we saw last year. And I'll finish up by saying that there are a lot of kids that are going to school for the first time. And parents need to have conversations with their children about just general rules of safety, understanding that the child should know their phone number, they should know their address, they should know how to get in touch with a parent, whether the parent's at work or at home, and should know the name of another trusted adult that they can get in touch with if they can't get in touch with their parents. Obviously, talking to young kids about talking to strangers, accepting a ride from someone they don't know. Again, conversations that need to happen with young children every single year to either to have the first conversation or to reaffirm the conversation that you've had with your children before. For the kids, for the older kids, some of whom are driving to school themselves for the first time, the importance of making sure that they're paying full time and attention to their driving, that they're not distracted by their classmates who may be driving to school with them, understanding what the limitations are in terms of the law, and allowing when a person first gets their license to have passengers in the car. Parents need to be aware of that law. They need to understand there are restrictions for young drivers. But even if a driver's been driving for a while and they're allowed to take their classmates, the studies have shown that you are much more likely to get involved in a crash if you have additional passengers in your car than if you're in the car by yourself. And it's all about distraction, whether it's a cell phone, whether it's fiddling with the radio or other devices in the car. The fact is that every single driver, especially young drivers, need to pay full time and attention to their driving. So having those conversations with your kindergartner, with your high school student, with your middle school student, no matter what the age, talk to your kid about safety. Make sure that they have safety in mind, because every year, it seems like without fail, we always hear that tragic story somewhere in the D.C. region, and it's always, when I hear about it, the first thing I think of is it's always preventable. Either the driver should have been paying more attention, the child should have not been darting out into the street. All these things are preventable. And so if everybody focuses on it, talks about it, keeps it in mind all year, I think we're going to have a great school year and a very safe school year for our kids. Thanks. And so Larry Bowers will talk. The superintendent of Montgomery County Public Schools is up next.
I want to thank Chief Manger for his leadership and his commitment to a partnership between Montgomery County Public Schools and the Montgomery County Police Department focused on the safety of all of our students. All of us, all of the drivers out there next week need to make sure they're keeping an eye on our students, as you've heard Chief Manger talk about. We're going to have over 156,000 students who are going to start school on Monday. This is 2,600 more students than we had last year. And one of the big changes this year is that high schools and middle schools are going to start 20 minutes later than they did last year, and elementary schools are going to start 10 minutes later than last year, and all schools are going to end 20 minutes later than they did last year. So it's important for all of our drivers to understand these changes, and that the students are going to be out at a time that's a little bit later, a little bit different than it was last year. Again, emphasizing what Chief Manger said, making sure that our drivers follow all the rules. Those are following the speed limits, making sure when they're in school zones to follow all the rules, follow the speed limits, making sure when our students are in crosswalks to give them the right of way as pedestrians. And so it's important to keep an eye out for all of our students. Again, our students will be getting to school. Many of our students walk. Over 100,000 of our students actually take buses. But to get to the bus, they have to walk to the bus stop. And many of our parents drive our students to school. So there's a variety of different ways. And other students actually do ride bikes. So we need to keep our eyes out for the students in many different situations. Just a few words for our students. It's necessary, and they need to make sure that they're following safe routes to school every day, that they're walking on sidewalks when they're available, they're being careful, that they're watching where they're walking, and they're watching just like any pedestrian, just watching the traffic, keeping an eye on it. They're using crosswalks. They're using crosswalks and where there are the crossing guards, and they're following the instructions of the crossing guards. That when there are controlled intersections, they're following the walk signs and making sure they're not crossing against a sign that's a no walk sign. So They need to follow all those safety rules, and they also need to, just like we encourage drivers, make sure drivers are not distracted, they're not texting or on the phones. When our students are walking to school, making sure that, when they're crossing intersections, that those earbuds aren't on, they're not so distracted by the music that they're not paying attention to what they're doing. For our parents, we need to make sure, particularly those who are driving students to schools, that they're following all of the appropriate procedures for the drop-off rules. Every one of our schools has separate drop-off rules. Those are intended to ensure the safety of all of our students. So they need to make sure that they're following all of those rules that we've set up at each of the individual schools. And again, many of our students, over 100,000 students, use bus transportation. They need to follow the guidelines we have for riding buses safely. That includes standing at the bus stop when they're standing and waiting for the buses, when they're getting on and off the buses, and when they're on the buses, making sure they're following all the rules and being very safe and being very appropriate. And again, it's important to make sure that our parents are aware of what their children are doing. So sometimes when they're walking, it means, particularly in the first weeks of school, if they have time to walk with them to make sure that they know what the rules are, they know how to cross the streets appropriately, making sure they're partnering up with a sibling, other children in the neighborhood, making sure that they're aware of the fact that their children have a safe way to get to school and know what all the rules are to follow. Just a quick note, tomorrow we have a back-to-school fair from 11 to 2 at the CESC. We welcome all the families to come. There's a lot of fun activities, a lot of educational activities and information about our programs and community programs. So we encourage folks to come out to CESC tomorrow at 11 o'clock. And again, I want to just thank Chief Manger for his leadership and the partnership that he's created, making sure that our students are safe when they're going to and from school. And I will now introduce Mrs. Patricia O'Neill, who's our president of the Board of Education.
Well, good afternoon, and I'd like to thank Chief Manger for organizing this press conference to make sure that everyone in Montgomery County is well aware that school is starting on Monday and everyone needs to pay attention. On Monday morning, 156,000 students will walk out the front doors of their homes, and parents throughout the county will kiss them goodbye and say, have a good day. Implicit in that have a good day is have a safe day. Please get to and from school safely. And I do know that as a mom of two and a grandmother of two, I always put my faith that my children would get to and from school safely. But it takes our entire community, all drivers, all community members, to pay attention to our children walking to school, to the big yellow buses as they have their red flashing lights, and to be sure to stop. Please put down your cell phones, no texting, no talking, and pay attention to whether our youngest students and our high school seniors. But we want everyone to have a healthy, successful, happy school year. So with that note, on behalf of the Board of Education, I say Happy New Year.